Good evening to you. Welcome to the second of our three-part series of Sports Board Game Antiquities. I'm Keith Avalon from PLAAY Games. Glad you're here. Sam is running the board tonight. We'll be taking a look tonight at Thinking Man's Golf from 3M Games. 3M, of course, stands for Minnesota Mining Company and Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing. I forgot the third M. Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing. A company that's now known simply as the 3M Company, for good reason, I guess. People probably kept forgetting, what's that third M? I don't remember what it was. It's a company that's over 100 years old, and as the name suggests, it is and always has been a broadly diversified company. It made a lot of different things, a lot of different areas of manufacturing, plastics, technology, all kinds of stuff. They're into healthcare now, the very broadly diversified company. And yes, for a few years in the late 1960s and early 1970s, they made board games. Go figure. I would have liked to have been in a board meeting where they decided to make board games. You know, it's like they're sitting around in their ties, their suits and ties, and they're talking about what products we're going to do next. Let's do board games. So the board game experiment at 3M lasted not maybe a half dozen years, really. I think it stretched on a little bit longer with the bookcase games. The series of bookshelf games with various economic and strategy themes began being produced in 1962. Acquire and Twixt were the two best known of those titles. Eventually they had like 3 dozen titles in that series. And then they introduced a line of sports-themed games starting in 1966. They had 3 games. They had Win, Place, and Show, which a lot of people are very familiar with. They had Thinking Man's Football, another very well-known game in our hobby. And this game that we're going to look at tonight, Thinking Man's Golf. They eventually released 4 other sports-themed titles. Baseball and regatta sailing came in 1967. They did hockey in 1969. And then in 1971, they did Speed Circuit, which I believe is Formula One racing. There was also a Thinking Man's Basketball, which was never released. If you've got a prototype copy of that, you're sitting on a gold mine, probably. By the early 70s, 3M had enough of the sports games and began selling off the entire division, actually both sports and strategy themes games. Most of them went to Avalon Hill in 1976. And Thinking Man's Golf did not make the cut. They had several other golf games at Avalon Hill, so they basically ended production on Thinking Man's Golf. Unlike last week's featured game, APA Saddle Racing, this game can still be found on eBay at a very reasonable price. I checked earlier today; it was ranging between $15 and $30. probably for two reasons. Number one, it was mass produced by 3M as a major producer, so it was literally probably 10 or 20 times, if not more, the production numbers of Appa Saddle Racing. And second of all, it's basically a plastic game. 3M knows plastics, and so these games held up pretty well over the years. So that may explain why they are so common, and they can be added to your collection pretty easily. So if you like what you see tonight, you can get on eBay and pick one of these up. Let's take a look at Thinking Man's Golf. I got this game, actually, one of my treasured finds at the Garland Road Thrift Store, Dallas, Texas. I think I paid $2 for it. One of many board game treasures I picked up there when we were living in Dallas. And it is typical of all the 3M sports games. They came in like a wraparound box, which I'm going to show you. Now, as I learned today online, the fact that this little tab here is in the center of the box means that it was probably produced in 1971. Earlier, it was not centered. I believe it was down here. So a little trivia there. This is probably a newer version, maybe one of the final ones. It unsnaps from the side. It's got a little plastic snap thing. Unsnaps from the side. And this is the game board. It serves as the wraparound and also the game board for the golf course. So Thinking Man's Golf, it's not a classic sports simulation in that you're going to use real-life golfers and reproduce their abilities on the game board. It is a generic golf game, which basically gives you the ability of a pro circa 1968, and then you can play. They've put together a collection of 18 of the greatest holes of the era, and they've strung them all together to make one like superstar or all-star course. They've got let me see. They've got Brookline, Mass, the country club at Brookline. They've got Augusta. You've got the Champions Club in Houston, and all the major courses of the day are represented in this 18-hole superstar golf course. So I'm going to have to probably I'll leave it like this for now. So it's a two-sided board. You play on this playing surface, and it's got a golf course. Golf course contoured on the game board. There's two sides. You play the front 9, and then you switch it over and you play the back 9. I'm guessing this is probably Pebble Beach or Pebble Beach has got to be on here with all the water. And it's got a laminated finish, a plastic finish on it, on which you mark your ball with a grease pencil. You choose your club. You aim the ball using a ball aimer that I'm going to show you here shortly, and then you roll the dice, and it determines how far the ball goes down the fairway, and also whether it drifts to the right or the left. Table real estate is going to be a problem, as it was last week. These games, this is a different era of sports board games where space wasn't an issue and time wasn't an issue. So it's a little bit clunky and unwieldy for what we do here, but we'll figure out how to do it. Yeah, Sam's going to have to I'm going to have to flip this over here in a second. So let me put the box here. This is what comes inside the wraparound case, and inside the box. First of all, the instructions are very succinctly presented here on the inside of the box cover. These are all the rules of the game right here. So it's a fairly I don't want to say it's a simple game, but it's very concise. The rules are very concise. They assume that you know golf pretty well. This would not be a game that you'd play if you didn't know anything about golf. It probably wouldn't be very enjoyable. I think what they are trying to do here is make it feel like you are, you have the golfing ability of a pro, and you're playing the greatest courses, or some of the greatest holes of the greatest courses in America at the time. But there are some things that maybe the game could do a little bit better in that regard. I'll talk about them in a minute. So here's the rest of the game. I got this upside down here. We have our dice here. It's a nice plastic tray. This is the targeting, the distance finder, as they call it. It's a little plastic. I don't know if you can see this. It doesn't really show up very well. It probably doesn't show up at all now I'm looking at the screen. It's a clear plastic grid that you lay onto the course. You'll see it when I put it on the course. I'll get to that here in a second then. And show you how to position it. This is basically the nuts and bolts of the game. You got your club selection here, This chart tells you how far the ball goes based on the dice that you roll. This chart over here tells you the distance that it goes based on the dice roll. And so you select you got a full bag of clubs. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 woods. You got the long irons 2 through 5. You got the short irons 6 through 9. You got a wedge, and then there are recovery shots, chip shots, and putting. So the game comes with a pair of dice. I added a second pair of dice so as to be able to roll the two sets of dice together and get your direction and distance with one roll. The game rules suggest that you use the same dice first to roll for distance, then to roll for direction. But this works pretty well. So I always use the green dice for distance, and then the white dice for direction. And there are a number of different rules about what kind of adjustments you make to the charts based on where your ball lands. The white areas are, of course, sand traps. These, I don't know how well you can see these. These are trees, obviously. These are what they classify as large trees. These black or dark bushes, or these blotches on the course, are considered to be small trees. You can hit over these. You can hit over the small trees easier than hitting over the larger trees. And you got different levels of rough. You've got rough 1, which is this lighter. Here's fairway, obviously. Here's the rough 1. Rough 2 is like the brown. This is rough 2. And if you really hit poorly, there are a few areas of rough 3, which would be right here on this fringe, way over here on this fringe. I don't know if you can see it. I guess you can't really see it on this side. That would be if you really hit it poorly, you'll go to rough 3. Seldom will you get there. The blue obviously is water, and that's basically it. So let's go ahead and play the game. We're going to have to probably kind of we're going to have to move this around the board, because there's no way. Obviously, if you're playing this on a table, you'd have this set over, like above the table somewhere, and you'd refer to it, and you'd have this nice golf course set in front of you. We don't have the luxury of having that kind of screen space. So we'll put the chart here. I'm going to move the rules down here off the table. And we're going to have to flip this around, actually, so we can start with hole number 1. We'll play a few holes here to show you how it works. Hole 1 is the Country Club, Brookline, Mass. It's the 17th hole there. First hole here. It's a 365-yard par 4. Let's go and get this right about there. And we'll move this like this. And it's a little unwieldy for me too, because I'm gonna have to play so that you can see it. And it's not exactly. I'm doing everything here to my right. I think I'll be able to manage it though. All right, so here's the grid, the aiming grid, and it's basically a piece of plastic with a bunch of holes punched into it. The longer distances have holes punched at 5 or 10-yard increments. The shorter clubs and distances have them at 5-yard increments. So you line up the arrow, which is basically where you're teeing from, and there's a little dot on the game board, and you'll line that up with that, and then you'll aim your shot. Now, the rules are a little bit. The rules are kind of forgiving. The idea here is that you choose your club first. You eye the terrain. You see how long this is going to go. What are the whether you want to try to lay up or hit long, and you choose your club, and then you'll set the grid down, and you live with the consequences. However, I did read a note and going through the instructions that says the first time you play this game, you may want to lay down the grid first, because if you don't know golf that well, you might be taking a one wood from here, and you're gonna hit it off the game board. So ideally, the idea is you're playing golf, you know your clubs, you're eyeballing the distance, and you're choosing a club that you think is going to work for you. But rather than choosing your club after the fact, if we're choosing the club after the fact, we're lining this up and we're seeing, okay, this is going to go, this is 240 yards here, so I want a club that's going to hit about 240 yards. Actually, this game was created in 1968, so that would be a one wood. It's kind of comical, actually. Well, comical is not the right word, but it's very interesting that in 1968, for somebody to hit the ball 270 yards, that was considered a long way. And now, if you can only hit the ball 270 yards from the tee, that's considered, you're weak. But on the one wood chart, the longest distance you can get is 270 yards. So bear that in mind. We're playing with 1968 abilities. So I'm going to use a one wood, obviously, from the tee. I'm lining it up like this, and then I'm going to decide where I want to aim it. It would seem to make sense, to aim towards the heart of the fairway. That's not always the case, though, because if you, in a bottleneck situation, if you hit 270, for example, you'd be much better off drift. You've got 40 yards to drift to the left here, and very little to drift to the right. So you kind of have to anticipate how far I'm going to hit it. I think they made this the first hole for a good reason, because it's fairly straightforward. This is pretty much the path you're going to try to take. You're going to try to get it somewhere in here, and then make your second shot to the green. So we'll line it up like this. Here's my grease pencil. I guess I didn't show you underneath here. There's also this scorecard, which you can keep track of with your grease pencil. It's laminated. You can wipe it off. It also has in the back, it has a series of rules for when the hole on the finder is touching two different kinds of terrain, which one to use. So we'll keep this out for handy reference. All right, so we're going to finally tee off here. And again, the green is for distance. The white is for direction, drift. We rolled a 6 on a, let's see, I guess I can probably move this over a little bit further so you can see it. So 6 on distance with a one wood driver. It's going to be 230 yards out. So we've got 230 yards out, and 3 means I'm going to go 40 yards to the left. So get my grease pencil out. I'm going 230 out and 40 to the left. 10, 20, 30, 40. So it looks like I put it right there in the sand trap. So you can actually mark that like this with your grease pencil. And you're going to play, there's the grease pencil mark, and that's where your ball is. So now you're going to do your second shot. Now, from the sand trap, you have to do a third dice roll to determine how many yards are going to be taken off the shot. And we'll go ahead and use this to measure the distance. Let's see here. So, again, placement is kind of key. Where do you want to try to, if you're going to hit an 80-yard shot, you probably want to hit either a 60-yard shot and go like this and then try to approach it, or ideally you want to try to get to the green. It's not always the smartest thing to do here, though. We'll try to aim for the green, and it looks like we want to get about 110 yards. So we will probably want to use. Looks like they're going to take off maybe 20 yards for being in the sand. So we want to use an iron that's going to go an average of 130, 120 yards. So that will be, looks like, obviously we look at what a 7 result is. So it's going to be about a 6 or a 7 iron. We can use a 6 or 7 or an 8. We'll use a 7 iron. So first we're going to see how many yards are going to be taken off for being in the sand. And 5 means we are going to subtract 20 yards. We're going to take 20 yards off. And then we roll the dice as normal. So we get an 8 with a 7 iron will be 140 yards. Minus 20 is 120. And 8 is going to be 15 yards to the right. So we go 120. Puts us here, and 15 yards to the right. Yikes. 1, 2, 3. It's going to be right there. We missed the green. I'm going to go ahead and put my grease pencil there. We're in the rough 1. So there's our little grease pencil mark right there.
Right on top of the glare.
Oh, you can't really see it. Yeah, that is the bad thing about having a laminated board. You got glare, but yes. Maybe I can move it here a little bit.
Well, that worked when you kind of pressed down on the...
Yeah, well.
You can move it, whatever you want to do.
I'll move it out of the glare. Let me move it this way. Yeah, there's really not going to be a way to get it out of the glare. Unless I really move it over like that. Let's do that. All right, so there's my ball. It's on the rough. So I can chip from here, a chip shot. I can. So from a number 1 rough, obviously I can use any club I want. So I'll just do a chip shot. Now this is one of the things that's kind of a little, I don't know if it's weak, but the chip shot you don't choose a club, you just roll on the chip shot chart. So I'm going to find out how far I am from the green. I'm actually clearly within 10 yards of the green, 15 yards of the green. So I can do a chip shot, and I can decide, basically to avoid using a club and just roll the dice. So this chart here will tell me how I do. Now, you can see the green is divided into like little concentric circles. They're representing the distance away from the hole. So this is the fourth area, this is the third area, this is the second area, this is the zone nearest the hole, and this little white area is the hole itself. So by rolling on this chart, it's going to tell you which zone you're going to get into. Frankly, it seems like it could be a little bit better. There could be a little bit more to it than that, but it is what it is. So I'm going to roll here. We got an 8. We are 10 to 30 yards from the green, so that puts us in zone number 2, which puts us right here. And then to putt, we just go to that zone, the concentric circle zone. So putting from zone 2, this is our distribution of putts. And again, we get a chance to sink it in 1. Probably going to have 2 putt here. And a 7 is going to be a 2 putt. So what's our score? 1. We were in the rough twice. I think we still eked out a par, though. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got a bogey. So we had 2 putted for bogey on that. It feels like putting should be a little bit more substantial, given that putting is like half the game. But in essence, you're basically everybody's got the same putting level, and once you get to the green, the game really resolves itself without having to use the finder, the distance finder. Let's go ahead and move on to the second hole, which is the Champions Golf Club in Houston, Texas, the 9th hole there, 538 yards, par 5. And I'll go ahead and move this back so it's kind of out of the glare. Let's see, I kind of get it. Let's go. Let's move it like right there. So we line up from the tee, and again, 240 is going to put us right about here. If we come up short, though, we're going to wind up in a good chance of being in this sand trap here. So we definitely want to hit long. Or we can try to, have our chances by, giving some leeway this way or this way. Either if we think we're going to, slice, we might go one way. If we're going to hook, we might go the other way. And then if we drift, we'll have a 50-50 chance of at least staying on the fairway. If we go here down the center, then if we drift at all, we're going to probably be in either trees or trap. So this is where the thinking man's part of the game goes. You're trying to sort of anticipate what might happen. We'll go ahead and use on a par 5 you got to lead with the driver. I'll go ahead and aim this way. And if I go left, I've still got some play here. If I go right, I'm going to wind up in the trees. So hopefully I'm not going to go right. All right, here's my dice roll. I'll roll it here. Whoa, 12 on the distance. That's bad. I'm really going to go to one way or the other. Looks like I'm going to go right. All right, but that actually might be okay for me. We'll see. So 6 on the distance on a 1 is going to be 230 yards. Puts me right here. And then 12 on direction is 50 to the right. Ugh. So that's 10, 20, 30, 40. See, if I'd done 40, I would have been okay. But if I hadn't rolled a 12, so I really sliced that into the tree. It's going to be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so I actually am underneath the tree. So I'm going to hit a recovery shot from under the tree. And they got a bunch of rules on that. Suffice it to say, I'm going to have to hit back out to the fairway and then, shoot from there. So I'll take a stroke. And I'm going to go here. This will be my 3rd shot. So obviously I'm not doing very well. Still got a long way to go. I don't believe you can use a 1 wood, a driver from the green. So I'll have to go with a 2 wood. And I'll aim that way. And let's see, where can I roll so you can see it? How about over here? So 11, that's pretty good. It's going to be 240 for distance. And not bad on direction, 20 yards to the right. So 230, did I say? Let me look it up again. 240. 240 and 20 to the right. So let's see. 240 puts me here, and 20 to the right puts me here. So I am still on the fairway. And now I can choose a short iron to try to get on. I go like this. So I'm going to need about a 100-yard shot. I can go far. I don't want to go short because then I'll wind up either in the water or in the sand. So I can go a little bit longer if I want. Let's try 100. So looks like we're gonna need about a. I guess we're gonna use a wedge, a full wedge. So we'll use the full wedge, and here we go. 2 on the distance. It means it only went 50, so I duffed it. This is capturing my golfing skills very nicely. With a drift of 5 to the right. So I only got 50 yards out of that, which means I put it almost in the water. Right there. So now I'm still... This is pretty frustrating. So let's try this. Looks like I'm within 30 yards of the green, so I believe I can do a chip shot, which I will do. Fortunately, the chip shots don't have anywhere near the golfing handicap that I have. So we'll go ahead and chip it in. 9, or do a chip shot from 30 to 50 yards into zone 4, which means I chipped it right to here somewhere. And then from zone 4, I roll the 2 dice, and I get a 3-putted. So what did I score on that? It was horrible. I got 1, and then 2, then 3, then 4, 5, and 3-putt is 8. I got an 8 on that. That is pretty bad. This is almost as bad as my performance on the Seven Wonders tour that we streamed live. That was horrible. I think this is even worse. All right, we'll do one more, and then we'll maybe I can at least salvage par on one of these. So we go here to the 3. I'm going to move this back like this. And this will be our last hole. We line up the dot. And this is, let me see what this is. This is the, this is the Augusta National, the 5th hole on Augusta National. All right, so obviously we get this big layup area here, and you don't want to hit too far, or else you're gonna wind up in the sand. It is a, let me see, it is a par 4, but only 450 yard par 4. We'll go ahead and use a 3-wood, I think, to tee off from here, and we'll aim for the sweet spot. Here we go. Whoa. We got a 7 on the distance. On the 3-wood is going to mean 190 yards. 4 on the drift means left 10. So 190 and left 10 is right there. That's not a bad first shot. All right. Mark it with a grease pencil. Sometimes the grease pencil doesn't. I'm not sure how great an idea this was. They might have used, an Expo pen or a Sharpie. I don't know that those were invented then. All right, now we're going to try to. We're gonna risk it and shoot this way. Nah, we're not gonna risk it. We'll go down the center here and try to make it to the green. We're 230 yards from the green. That's probably not going to make that on one shot. So let's use a 2-iron, which will have less drift. And we'll go right here. We're using a 2-iron. And we got a 3 on the distance, which is going to send us 160. And an 8 is going to be, 8 on the direction is going to be 20 to the right. So 160 and 20. 160 is here. 20 to the right is going to be 5. There's 5. There's 20 right there. Oh, I'm not sitting too bad. Here's my third shot. Looks like we're going to need a short iron, maybe an 8. Let's see here. I think an 8 iron might work. It'll give me 130. No, that's going to be too far. We're going to have to wedge it on there, obviously. Do a medium wedge shot. All right, here we go. Medium wedge shot. Here we go. 10 on the medium wedge shot for distance is going to be 80. That's perfect. Right? Well, it's not perfect, but I am on the green. And let's check the drift. 9 will be only 5. So that'll put me right. 5 to the right. That would be putting me right there. So I'm still on the green. I'm on the 4th concentric circle, the 4th zone. And let's go ahead and roll and see if I can get a par here. I would need to sink it, right? This is my 4th. I got 1, 2, 3. Right. This is my 4th shot here. I got to sink this for par. No pressure. I got to roll a 2. And I didn't. I got an 8, so I 2-putted for bogey. So there you go. I got a bogey on the first hole. I'm 5 over now on this championship course. So that's basically how it works. I did not go into the part about the wind speed. You're supposed to calculate wind speed before you start your round, so that the wind can be coming from like the northeast, or actually I don't think it gets that complicated. From the north at 10 miles an hour, or south to north at 20 miles per hour, depending on what you roll. In fact, most of the time you're going to have a wind. But the thing about that is, it really just adds extra calculations to the game, because you're just going to compensate. You're going to say, okay, it's going to take 20 yards off, or it's going to blow the ball 20 yards based on the chart there. It's going to blow the ball 20 yards to the left. I will then just compensate by moving my finder 20 yards, to the right to compensate for that. And I mean, I suppose it gives you the feel of playing against the wind, but really, in a board game context, it really just adds extra computation. So I've never played with the wind, and that's why I didn't introduce it here. But that's what you're supposed to do. Most of the time, you're going to have wind to contend with, which will add an extra calculation to it. All right, so as you can see, this is not an easy game to be good at, and it does require some. In the game introduction, it says what does it say? It requires a little bit of luck. It says each player has the scoring ability of a pro, but he must use the correct strategy combined with a little luck in making his shots if he wants to beat or match par. I would say maybe more than a little luck sometimes, because if you roll poorly, no matter what, no matter how smart your strategy, it's not going to come up well. So anyway, that is Thinking Man's Golf. It's an enjoyable game. I remember when we were in Dallas with our church youth group, we used to get this out and play. Get a foursome and play, and it's an enjoyable game. It's fun, and it does have some decision making. I do think the putting could be fine tuned a little bit better, but it makes it fast. You're essentially really, if you're playing well, you're really resolving 2, maybe 3 shots. You're choosing 2 or 3 clubs. The rest of the time, you're going to roll to see how you do on your putting iron. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Thinking Man's Golf, now available on eBay. Monday, we'll wrap up our series on sports game Antiquities with a look at Avalon Hill's basketball strategy game, a game that I played quite a bit after I finally recovered from APA basketball, as most people, don't have a great experience or didn't have a great experience with that. This is the second basketball game that I tried, and it's fun. It's again a generic game. Doesn't have real players, although there are add-on, like a modular system. You can create your own players in sort of a rudimentary fashion. I'll explain that next Monday. But I think you'll enjoy looking at Avalon Hill's basketball strategy. Then Thursday, we will switch from old basketball to new basketball. We'll give you the highlights and the updates on History Maker Hoops. We made some new components. We'll show those off. Maybe even get some of the new cards that we just finished making for the 2021 season out on the table, and maybe play a quarter or so. That'll be happening next Thursday, week from tonight, on the PLAAY Space Live. So another week has gone by. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was a good week for you, and that you've got a fun weekend planned ahead. And we'll plan on seeing you here Monday night as we wrap up our Sports Game Antiquities series here on the PLAAY Space Live. Thanks for watching tonight.